Hello, everyone, and welcome to Tim Talks Audio Live. Thank you for joining me on this Tuesday. It just turned into a really cruddy kind of Tuesday because about 3 minutes before I went live, massive thunderstorm came rolling in. So, if for some reason this gets abruptly interrupted from any kind of power outage, that's what's going on. There's a thunderstorm happening right now, and I can't do anything about that. I can't compete. That's way too strong. It's 1.21 gigawatts. Come on. Nobody can compete with that. All right, so what are we doing today? We're going to be doing some effects in this mix that we've been working on. This is the same song that we've been doing. It's Hear Me Now from the band Mongreloid. Everything we've done so far is just been like balancing, some compression, some EQ. It's gotten us really far. And what we're going to do is we can compare to actually the artist's rough mix to see where we are, see if there's any little things that we need to change other than the fact that we just need to instill some life into this mix. We're going to do things like reverb, delays, other time-based effects, some of the things that I like to do, or some of the things that you can do. And as we've been doing with everything else, only using stock plugins. This is only the stuff that's available at I'm going to try and do stuff that's available for all the way down to like the Prime version of Studio One, which is the free version. But I am going to be using some of the plugins that are available in just the Pro version or the step-ups from Prime. So we'll get into those. But I'm not going to be using any third-party stuff as we've been doing this entire time. It's just going to be the stuff that's installed or comes with Studio One. So let's switch you guys over. Oops, that's the wrong mouse. I need this one. Let's dive in. So here we go. We're looking at our session. Now, we're in here. I've done nothing since our last stream, which was last week. Everything is exactly the same. You can see on some things there's some automation, but I'll be honest, this automation is some stuff that I touched on last week. I'm just going to probably get rid of some of this. I don't even use this track. This is just an effects track that was used to print this guitar flanger. So we'll steal that flanger later. And then this was just showing like, hey, there's something that's happening. I think if I remember correctly, this is the big open chords. We want the big open chords to hit kind of hard and then kind of dump down as the jingly jangly part goes through. Technical term, jingly jangly part. So we're going to do some effects. The snare is super dry. We're going to put some reverb on that. I'm going to show you what kind of reverb that I like. And then the vocals have nothing going on. They're straight up dry. So we're going to do a bunch of different things in there. We'll create some dynamic delays. We'll create some dynamic reverbs. And that's just basically side chaining the effects from the lead vocal itself. And we'll get into that. So let's start off by remembering the song. I'm going to go to my start marker and we're going to listen. Okay, so that's from the start up until the second verse of what we've done so far. Now in the second verse, what I'm going to do, and this is the video that actually just came out yesterday, it's about using reference mixes. Now in that video, I talk about using commercial mixes, which are readily available, and another use, which is what we've been doing in here, and that is the client's rough mix. That's what I have over here. As you can see, and I'm just basically going over the same thing that I went over in the video, is everything else that's in my session is routed to this white mix bus right here, except for this gray track at the end. This is the rough mix that came from the client, and it is going straight to my output. It does not hit my mix bus because I don't want any of my mix bus processing to change the sound of the client's mix. So let's continue on. This is... Now we're going to listen to their mix, and we're just going to do a couple bars of it, and then we'll pop back to our mix, and we can kind of contrast and compare what's been going on and where we are compared to what they're used to hearing. Yeah, Brett, I'm sorry. Everything's kind of straight up on my end. I don't really have too much of an echo. I think that's just on your end. If anybody else in the chat wants to chime in and say how it sounds, it's good for me to know, because if there is an issue, then I can address it on my end. That might be just something from you, though. I'm sorry, but please let me know. Keep active in the chat. Let's listen to the client's rough mix, and then we'll pop back into our mix a couple bars in.
Distracting is all but gone. I've taken a good look around. It's too late for me to turn back. I've stepped on a new path I found, and I finally feel like I know who I am and doing what I'm told. It's starting to get old. Am I the only one with something to believe? It's like a new frontier, the truth that goes unseen.
So there's our reference mix. That's what the client had. Brett, I'm glad to hear that it's fine now. I'm curious what it was. Maybe it was just some kind of connection thing. Who knows? But I'm glad to hear that it's better. Madge, thanks for saying that it's good with you. Ross, also, thanks for saying that it was good. So that's where we are. That was their mix versus our mix. And honestly, right now, we're done with this. Let's get into some effects. First thing I'm going to want to touch on is the snare. This already has some rooms happening. Like, we do have some liveliness in our drums, and we can listen to everything here. And then this track is a printed drum room. So that's the stuff that's already printed. Let me go back to the return to stop, because that's what I like having on. So there is a printed room. It's giving us some stuff, but I do want some more liveliness in that snare itself. Now, when it comes to things like reverb, I like to do stuff as a send and sending it to a bus. I personally don't like using FX channels. And there's a reason for that. Effects channels, and we can scroll over to that guitar flanger channel. Whenever you have a bus, you can then also send a copy of that bus somewhere, where with an effects channel, you can't. The only way to do that would actually just to be to change the output routing of the effects channel. But if there's something crazy that I want to do where I still need the original plus a send of that copy, I use a bus. That's just something that I do. Now, effects channels are great, and the reason that effects channels are great is that they come pre-armed in solo isolate or solo in place. Those are the same thing. And basically says, like, when I hit solo on this track, if there's something sending to it, I want to be able to hear that as well. So it automatically knows to, that's what solo in place is. It automatically knows to put that into solo as well. A bus inherently will not do this, but it's as easy as going in and shift clicking, and that works on both PC and Mac. It doesn't matter what platform you're on. Shift clicking will put it into the solo safe, or solo, what did that say? Solo safe, use shift. So you just hold shift, you click on it, and it puts it solo safe. So let's go ahead and create a new bus. Let's see, where did you put it? Double click this guy because he's going to show me. Oh, where are you? Show destination. Here we go. He's all the way on the end. So I'm just going to, for my own sanity, I'm going to put this over here by my drums. I'm going to make it the same kind of yellow that's been going on, or close to it anyway. That'll work. Rename. Snare. Plates. I like plates. Oop, that's not how you spell that. I like plates on my snare. And you see we have a bus here, but it's not solo isolated. It's solo isolated. Another thing I need to change is this needs to go to my mix bus. So that's the two things that I'm going to change is double click that. I don't know if you saw that some of my sends were, some of my sends were at different heights. So like maybe this one was at a different height. To get everything to the same, you just find one at the level that you want, double click. Double click puts everybody to the same height. So snare plate, solo isolate, send it to my mix bus. Now we need to throw some kind of reverb on there. And we have a few options. Reverb. We could do room reverb. We could do open air. Or we could do mix verb. Let's go with mix verb and see what we have. Let's see, mix with beep, beep, boop. Pre-delay, her size, our dampening, our gate on or off, the width, lock, bop, bop, bop. And let's see what some of the things are. Let's see, snare drum, stoned room, big shot, big garage, gated. I don't know if this is going to get me the sound I want. I do prefer a plate style reverb, so I'm just going to turn this one off. Let's go with room reverb instead, and we'll start off. Maybe I'm overlooking something, but you know, let me go the old-fashioned way and go down here. Presonus. Room reverb. I guess there's not really an option for a plate verb, but that's okay. We'll just use what's available. Compressor, dual pan, expander, fat channel, flanger. Nope, nope, nope. Groove delay. Nope. All right, let's go back to room reverb. We'll make it work with this. Now, obviously, you can change the style of the room, small room, medium hall, large hall. There is no plate on here, but that's fine. Well, you know what? You work with what you work with. Let's start off with these presets. Let's go with bright. And we will solo out our drums. And the snare is going to be ridiculous. Actually, you know what? Let's just solo the snare. So I want this to be wet. I'm going to go all the way wet with my mix because I'm sending it to a bus. And so I already know that the snare itself is going to be coming out of my mix. There's plates in open air. Yes, there are plates in open air. I'm trying to, as much as I can, to do things that are available to everybody. And I forget which. I know that open air is only available for pro members or pro users of Studio One. Rainzy, what's going on, dude? Pro open air does have plates, and we'll do real quick because we'll dial something in with room reverb, which I believe is available for most levels. I believe it's definitely available for artist and pro. Mix verb might be the only one that's available for Prime members, and then we'll do some open air to pull up in a plate. So it sounds like it's actually distorting a little. There's a little pre-delay, which I'm not against. Room size, width is good, height is fine. Room size, I'm gonna make it real big. So that just adds a little bit of life to that snare drum. It's not even a lot going on, but it does make the snare drum a little bit bigger and kind of hold out a little bit more, which is what we want. Now, from what Ross was saying, right, Ross? Yes. We're going to do open air on here. Let's see what we got going on. Ramsey just staying home. We all are, man. I hear you. What's going on, Rotor? Thanks for joining us. Let's do some open air so you can hear what a plate sounds like. And I'm just going to open up a preset. Plates. Let's go with a medium plate. There's probably something in here called snare plate. Nope, not a medium plate. Let's look. Snare plate, small plate. That's the one. It's going to load everything up. And now we've bypassed room reverb. Now let's listen to a snare with a plate. So let's listen to everything. So obviously that's a crazy amount going on. Let's see. The envelope, we can fade in and fade out. We don't want to do that. Early reflections versus late reflections crossover. It's about 50 milliseconds. We'll leave all of that fine. You can change the mix over here with early and lates, then the gain as well, which actually maybe we'll bring this back down a little because it was killing. Processing cross feeds, cross delay, time, that's all fine. So now this is just a preset. I'm fine with it. And let's try and like dial it in. I scaled the length back too. I'm not a huge fan of this one, and I'm going to tell you why. It's the tail of just this impulse that's going on with open air and the snare plate itself. It cuts off. It almost sounds like a gated snare, and it's not locked in. And instead of me trying to line it up and like spend the time to really get the tail exactly where I want, I'm just going to switch back to room reverb because this is a more natural sounding tail. It doesn't sound gated at the end. You can see here on the graph in open air, there's a lot going on, and then at 550 milliseconds, or just at like 450 to 500 milliseconds, it really just tanks, and you can hear it. It's not flattering. Like it clamps right at the end there. Let's even just go ahead and solo this snare. And I don't want to increase my length too much because it's just going to be the same thing. This impulse actually gets cut off. And now that might be... Yep, nope, that's that. So we're going to put that back to normal. No, it's not any of these. I really think that it's the impulse. Yeah, no, I just want that. So I'm not going to use open air. I'm going to use room reverb because I felt like this was a better sounding reverb. And you can hear how just a little bit of reverb on the snare actually makes it kind of stick out a little bit more, because it makes it longer and it fills it into a space where the just transient of the snare doesn't exist. So it gives it more length and more body, so that when the mix kind of works around it and it just gives it a little bit of space, it pulls it really forward for you.
Can anyone hear me now? My eyes open to see the light. It's like watching the clouds disperse, and I'm starting.
So there we go. We've done some reverb on the snare. Now let's address these vocals. And I'm going to start doing things on my vocal bus. And from there, we might do things like we said before and divvy things out to the individual tracks. I am going to utilize this. Cool. I'm just going to reuse this miscellaneous aux as my effects aux. I like putting all of my, most of my effects. The drum one is going to stay with the drums, and that's going to be fine. But all of like stuff like vocal reverb, delays, things like that, I put into its own bus. This way, if something, I can like automate that later. If the vocal comes out, I can push the reverb a little harder so that it's almost like a dynamic style delay. So let's just add in a bus. Let's see. I'm just remembering my shortcut, which is Command B plus, I believe that's Control. So let's do that. Yes, it is. So let's see. Now I'm going to want a vocal room. I'm going to want a vocal plate. For giggles, let's do a vocal hall. And then we're going to do an eighth note, a quarter note, and a half note delay. Thankfully, we already have our tempo locked in, so we can use all that, and we can use the session tempo to do that. So let's take all of you guys. You're all going to go to this miscellaneous aux, and just so that I can see it a little better, we're going to go like that. Let's make them all some kind of pretty pinky purple. No, we'll change it up. Let's do this green. No, don't like that either. There, that's beautiful. All of these guys, oops. Now you can't, or at least I don't know the commands to do all of these at the same time to put them in solo isolate, but I'm not too worried about it. Okay, rename. What did we say? Room, plate, hall, 1/4. Oops, actually, 1/8, 1/4, 1/2. Eighth note delay, quarter note delay, half note delay. To make things even easier, I actually did a video on this one. Analog delay, I think, is a very strong, simple little delay. Maybe we'll change it up on some of these other ones just so that we have like some different things going on. But as a baseline, analog delay is going to be perfect for all of these. Then for all of our reverbs, for these ones, we could probably do open air. But just as a safety, let's also do room reverb, and I'll just turn all those off. This way they're not using power, they're not actually trying to do anything. So all these are going in. Now, something that I like to have on all of my effects, just in case I need it, is an EQ. And I like to have this first in line. So I need to just adjust it for these ones. And what this allows me to do is actually tone shape the sound going into the effects. So, you know, you may have heard of the Abbey Road trick. It's an Abbey Road trick. And basically all it does is, let's say, let's very quickly on the bus, we'll just go to quarter note delay. So let's do this. Let's lock it into a quarter note and do all that. So I'm just going to change the damping because I don't want the delay itself to do the damping. I want to show you what to do with Pro EQ beforehand. Feedback is going to be fine. Ping. Let's just go stereo. It's going to be centered. We're going to do a little bit of saturation just because it's fun. Mix 100%. LFO, I'm not going to do right now. We're probably going to mess with this later, but I'm not going to do it right now. So let's take a listen to our lead vocals. We're going to have to very quickly find a good spot for this quarter to kind of sit in.
Can anyone hear me now? My eyes open to see the light. It's like watching the cloud.
and it's not locking in. Let's figure out what's going on. Let's see.
Can anyone hear me now?
So that's seeing it. That's going on. This knows to do those channels, which is good. I can see it going there. I can see it going there.
Can anyone hear me now? My eyes open to see the light. It's like watching the clouds disperse.
Hey, there it is. Why were you doing that, you silly?
Can anyone?
There we go. It was just I misclicked. That happens.
Can anyone hear me now? My eyes open to see the light. It's like watching the...
So obviously there's a lot going on, all of those quarter notes. What we can do... we were going over the Abbey Road trick and why I throw EQs before all of my stuff is I can tone shape going on the way in. Let's take a quick listen to just the vocal again without anything going on. And then I will change to Pro EQ and show you what I do.
Can anyone hear me now? My eyes open to see the light. It's like watching the clouds.
So clearly there's way too much going on. It's muddying everything up. It's not even muddying everything up because that's a frequency thing, but it's just too busy. There's way too much going on. So the Abbey Road trick is putting both a low cut and a high cut filter before your effects, your time-based effects. So I'm sending a copy, but what it's going to do is we're going to filter out and almost make it kind of telephony. We're going to be careful because of his voice. His voice is like upper mid-rangey-ish. So we actually kind of want to scoop a little bit of that out as well, which is why I'm using Pro EQ and not just like some kind of filter. I can add 5 bands of EQ into here plus my filters. So let's do some of the usual settings. Now, it looks extreme, but when you hear it, you'll know why. We're going to take the low frequency and go way up. And honestly, we're going to start like at 550. We're going to roll everything below 550 out. We don't want any of that. Then we're going to take our... actually, before we even do anything, let's listen to this before and after.
Can anyone hear me now? My eyes open to see the light. It's like watching the clouds disperse.
So it did get rid of some of the mud or some of the extra buildup in just the lower register of his voice. Now, like I said, his voice is very upper mid-rangey, and that's why we can use the other side. We can use a high cut and actually roll this back to maybe 8K. Let's take a listen.
Can anyone hear me now? My eyes open to see the light. It's like watching...
Let's see. Let's take this out and make it a pre-fader send. Which, of course... Oh, that's why. So let's just steal this over to here. Why aren't you going? I wanted to do this on its own, but it's all right. You'll hear it once we get into it. I'll put this back to post fader. The reason I'm putting it post fader because I want any automation that I do on this track. I do want it to affect how much is going to the delay.
Can anyone hear me now? My eyes open to see the light. It's like watching the clouds disperse, and I'm starting to feel...
So it does make it more telephony, and we need to be careful. So what we can do is actually push EQ into the delay to find out like what's going to be contrast with his voice, and then just duck it out.
Can anyone hear me now? My eyes open to see the light. It's like...
So I think about there, I can pull some of this out. And let's just do something, just slight 4 dB.
Can anyone hear me now? My eyes open to see the light. It's like watching the clouds disperse, and I'm starting to feel alive. And I think I can simplify all the chaos that sparked this.
So now I can even use the dampening that's in analog delay to clean it up a little bit more if I want to.
Can anyone hear me now? My eyes open to see the light. It's like watching the clouds disperse, and I'm starting to feel alive. And I think I can simplify.
So he already has a printed echo that goes on there. Let's actually just bypass this real quick. That's just at the pre-chorus. So I believe that's a quarter note.
I found, and
1, 2, 3, 4.
like I know
1, 2, 3. Quarter note delay. That's what's happening right there. And we already have our quarter note delay. So we can kind of automate this to be dynamic, that when stuff is happening, it pushes our send out of the way. Because normally...
Distraction is all but gone. I'm taking a good look around. It's too late for me to turn back.
It's going on all of the time. So let's go ahead and throw a compressor on. And we're going to side chain it from our lead vocal bus. Boom, lead vocal. There's the one. And we can dial some stuff in. Let's do like a 4-to-1 ratio because we do want it to get out of the way. A slightly harder knee. Not too crazy, it's just kind of medium. And we'll mess with the attack and the release and as it's going. So let's take a listen. So let's listen to that again, and we'll actually put everything into solo. What I want it to do is when the lead vocal is happening, I want it to compress the return of the quarter note delay. So that's what we're dialing in. And when he stops singing, I want it to release and bring those delays out.
Distraction is all but gone. I've taken a good look around. It's too... Distraction is all but gone. I've taken a good look.
So better example is probably going to be in the pre-chorus.
I finally feel like I know who I am, and doing what I'm told is starting to get old. Am I the only one with something to believe? It's like a new frontier, the truth that goes unseen. Can't you hear life calling? It falls upon deaf ears, the sound will keep falling. And I'm sorry, but I can't stay here.
So when he's not singing, those delays are allowed to kind of come out a little bit more. And when he is, it's going to push them down just a little bit. It's going to compress them and get them out of the way. So that's something you can do with some side chaining to create a dynamic delay. Now, what I'm also going to want to do, here's the send to the side chain, and that's fine. I find myself using... I find myself using delays more than I do reverbs on voices, just because I find it to sit a little bit better. But, but we can also do a little bit of reverb in there as well. So I don't have anything loaded into open air. Let's go ahead and find a room. Let's go, 250. This is probably going to be based on an EMT 250. Whoa. Okay. That's definitely happening. Let's pull that way down.
I feel like I know who I am, and doing what I'm told is starting to get old.
Let me just turn off the send to the quarter notes because that'll be easier.
I finally feel like I know who I am, and doing what I'm told is starting to get old. Am I the only one with something to believe?
So that's another thing or another reason why I like to throw EQs in before like all of these effects is I can remove, or here's another example of why I'm going to use that EQ to remove stuff going in.
I finally feel like I know who I am, and doing what I'm told is starting to get old. Am I the only one with something to believe? It's like a new frontier, the truth that goes unseen. Can't you hear life calling? It falls upon deaf ears, the sound will keep falling. And I'm sorry, but I can't stay here. I finally feel like I know who I am, and doing what I'm told is starting to get old. Am I the only one with something to believe? It's like a new frontier, the truth that goes unseen. Can't you hear life calling? It falls upon deaf ears, the sound will keep falling. And I'm sorry, but I can't stay here. I finally feel like I know who I am, and doing what I'm told is starting to get old. Am I the only one with something to believe? It's like a new frontier, the truth that goes unseen.
So there's like a room sound. Let's see what we can do with plates. Again, this is just me. Recently, I haven't really been enjoying reverbs on vocals. And I think it's just I'm being very particular about my reverbs. Maybe I just haven't found the right reverb yet. So we're going to do plates. Not a large plate. Honestly, we probably just want a short plate. Let's see if they have a preset. Warm plate 90, tight plate 90. Let's go with tight. No, maybe we should go down warm. Let's go with warm. There you go. All right, this might be ridiculous as well, so let's just pull the gain down. And again, they're showing that the length is ridiculously long.
I finally feel like I know who I am, and doing what I'm told is starting to get old. Am I the only one with something to believe? It's like a new frontier, the truth that goes unseen. Can't you hear life calling? It falls upon deaf ears, the sound will keep falling.
So what I did is I was hearing lots of S's hitting this plate.
I finally feel like I know who I am, and doing what I'm told is
Like that told is really, it triggers that plate and makes it kind of like take off. All those top S's, I don't want those. So I'm just going to roll all of my top end off going into the plate and do that same Abbey Road trick that we were talking about. We're kind of tone shape going into it.
All this starting to get old. Am I the only one with something to believe? It's like a new frontier, the truth that goes unseen. Can't you hear life calling? It falls upon deaf ears, the sound will keep falling. And I'm sorry, but I can't stay here.
That's a good little spot to kind of like really dial this in.
But I can't stay here. But I can't stay here. But I can't stay here. But I can't stay here.
So I'm just dialing in the pre-delay to kind of have it line up. I could use like some kind of online calculator and figure out what like an eighth note or a quarter note is at our song tempo, which, let's see, I think I have one on my phone real quick. Audio file calc, here we go. Let's do note length. Tempo is 186. That's not correct. 186. Why are you not going in? Oh, because it didn't delete. Clear. 186. So if I really wanted, I would know that a quarter note is going to be 322 milliseconds. I don't want a quarter note. Let's go with an eighth note, which is going to be 161 milliseconds. You can see this one right here. Pull it up. Boom. 161 at our, I think it's over here, at our tempo. So let's just punch that in, or get as close to it as we can. 161, 160.5. So now there should be an eighth note delay before it gets to the reverb.
But I can't stay here. But I can't stay here.
It's also a good spot to kind of hone in like a half note delay, which with the half note delays, we're not going to use analog delay. Let's use something like groove. I'm spelling it wrong. Groove delay. Let's go into groove delay. And we'll pull open another preset because presets are cool. Swing an eighth. We want something long. Mono to stereo. Oh, that's like a stereoizer, like a doubler sort of. So let's do 4 echoes and figure that out. Beats. So four. Oh, this is tap 1, tap 2, do that. Okay. I don't really use groove delay all that often, so we're going to figure it out ourselves. Here's our, if I remember correctly, yep. So for all of our steps, this is a universal wet dry knob over here, and it's a global feedback. Cutoff mod, 2 bars. Should be fine. Bar length.
But I can't stay here.
Oh, it's still going. That's too much. All right, maybe we won't use groove delay. I need to mess around with groove delay some more. Let's find, there's analog delay, beat delay. That's going to be the guy we want. Beats. Nope, go up. Why are you doing that? Go up to half note. Offset, we're not going to worry about too much right now. Ping factor, we're also not going to worry about too much right now. Cross delay, well, this is, it'll delay the left and the right sides slightly differently from each other. In pan, we're not going to worry about. Width, I want it to be wide. Maybe we'll do ping pongs underneath. And here's the same thing, the low cut and the high cut, the same reason why we have Pro EQ on. This is just after the fact. Now, does it matter before EQing before or after? Yeah, it does. If you EQ before going into an effect, the effect itself won't ring out the negative things that you want, where after the fact, it's already ringing. So like, again, his upper mid-range sounding voice might already hit that reverb or that delay or something and just be like ringing and interfering with the lead vocals. And you would throw an EQ before so that you could carve it out. Where an EQ after, especially something on like beat delay where it's just a low cut and a high cut, if I got to cut 1.2K, where am I going to do that? I can't do that on here. So just things to keep in mind.
Sorry, but I can't stay here.
There's a lot going on. Let's turn everything else off. Just our half note.
Sorry, but I can't stay here. Sorry, but I can't stay here.
So everything is going through, and that's why you can kind of like, it's jumbled.
Sorry, but I can't stay here.
So there's a lot of things hitting the delay here. We're just kind of like honing it in right now and getting the sound that we want.
Sorry, but I can't stay here. Sorry, but I can't stay here.
So let's do the same thing. Let's just steal it from here.
Sorry, but I can't stay here.
That's what it was. The mix was down too because we used a preset. Actually, we didn't use a preset, but we're gonna lock that at 100%.
Sorry, but I can't stay here.
It also sounds like that note might need to get tuned. And I wonder if we should do that real quick. Stay here. I'm not going to worry about it right now.
Sorry, but I can't stay here.
So let's do some automation now. What I really want is that line here to kind of just trail off. And instead of having my send up all the time and possibly doing like a dynamic delay like this, where it's also going to be side chains, let's listen to just a dynamic delay and see if that gives us what we want.
But I can't stay here.
This isn't doing what I want because it's still getting fed everything from the lead vocal. So everything up until the line here, which is the key one that I want, sorry, but I can't stay here, is all getting fed into this compressor. Now, I could slam it.
But I can't stay here.
What was it, 161?
But I can't stay here.
You can also still hear it saying stay here, and I don't want that. So I'm going to turn off this compressor, and now let's do some automation. From the track itself, I can get rid of this one, actually. I can just remove that, because we're also going to remove the compressor from our half-note delay. And then the easy way to do it is to go over here, and I'm going to change my send level. And I'm going to right-click and hit Edit Send Automation. I'm just going to change the color too, just so we can tell. So on our lead vocal bus, what we can do is, where's the line? The line is on this guy. Why is everybody so small? Usually bigger for me. There we go. I do want to turn, just volume, hide automation. There. So I just want, from these lines, sorry, but I can't stay here.
But I can't stay here.
This is where here starts. So I can kind of just mark it, put a point, and then my third point, this is going to be like a throw delay. So I can just add these in just by clicking. And if we pull back a little bit more.
Sorry, but I can't stay here.
So now I'm only sending the word that I want. I'm only sending here. Now, I also think, very quickly, I'm not going to do that. Hey, get back over here. I'm going to undo. That's not what I wanted. I just want these guys. I want you to come down just a little. 3 dB less.
I can't stay here.
And there's a reason that I did like some points like this, because I don't want it to be like a hard point like this. And listen to the difference.
I can't stay here.
The very start of it kind of just like slams into that delay where I want it to ease in. So that's why I always put like a little ramp up, and then we can just compare, make sure if we really want it can come back to here. But because it's already ramping up, it's crossing into where he's saying the word that we want. Nothing happens afterwards. So really, we could take this point and drop it down.
But I can't stay here.
And we could do this because the send has already happened. It's already in the delay, and we can just turn it off at that point. This would prevent, like if there was another line coming up, because we're going through a bus, of it double sending. So something like over here where he travels in, or he leads into the chorus, or where he goes, where you get old, this crosses over into the first line of the chorus and the lead into the chorus. So if I had this kind of drawn out a little bit more, I could have too much going to the delay. Now, to prevent that is I could do some automation on this track itself and have him have a send to that same delay, and then just automate this line. Now, is it going to have my bus processing? No, it's not. But that also causes some variance in your mix. That makes things sound a little bit different, because it's not going to be compressed one more time. It's not going to have the same bus processing. So it'll be like a little ear candy, because it's like, this one sounds slightly different because of how it's being fed into those delays.
Am I the only one with something to believe? It's like a new frontier, the truth that goes unseen. Can't you hear my calling?
Just realized we haven't done anything with the background vocals, so let's go over to Room Reverb and see what we got. Biggest wall. What is that? No. This is going to be like it's supposed to be my hall reverb. So let's find a preset. Concert hall. There we go. Mix all the way up because it's on ascend. And this is just the backgrounds now.
Deaf ears keep falling.
And for backgrounds, you can have them be a little bit more wet because they're not as frequent. So if we pull the lead vocals in, put our sends back on.
Am I the only one with something to believe? It's like a new frontier, the truth that goes unseen. Can't you hear my calling? It falls upon deaf ears.
That's it going to the hall. We can try some of the other ones. Maybe the room is going to sound better.
Am I the only one with something to believe? It's like a new frontier goes unseen. Life calling. It falls upon deaf ears. Keep falling. Only one to believe.
Okay, so room's okay. Hall is okay. Maybe we could even just do both, because why not?
Only one to believe. New frontier goes unseen. Life calling. Upon deaf ears keep falling. Only one to believe.
Okay. I think that's decent enough. Now I want to show you something that actually help you make your mixes just a little bit wider. On the background vocals, which we know are hard panned left and right, everything going to the send, or everything going to the bus is also going to be hard left and right going there. And our send from the bus is just going to put whatever's on the left into the left and whatever's on the right into the right. I'm going to take the hall send and put it onto my background vocals. And we're going to concentrate on these ones right now. And I'm going to turn off the bus sends. And then on the channel sends themselves, I now have, here's my sends to the hall. This is my right vocal. I'm going to take it, and there is a pan slider just under here. It's hard to find. It's really small. I'm hoping it's something that they're going to change to make just a little bit bigger. But I'm going to take my right vocal, my right background vocal, and send it to the left side of my reverb. And then I'm going to take my left vocal and send it to the right side of my reverb.
Only one to believe. New frontier goes unseen. Life calling.
So that helps make your mix just a little bit wider because it's changing what's getting sent to what side. And so it's like playing a little trick on your ear. Let's see if we can do a quick before and after. So here's just normal panning.
Only one to believe. New frontier goes unseen. Only one to believe. New frontier, the truth that goes unseen. Can't you hear my calling? It falls upon deaf ears. The sound will keep falling. And I'm sorry, am I the only one with something to believe? It's like a new frontier. The truth goes unseen. Life calling. Upon deaf ears keep falling.
Just doing a little compression on the reverb because you can do that. Why not? If you want to just squeeze those a little, you can do the same thing. So now here's something else that we can do is we can take delays, which we haven't done much with, but to kind of blend them in a little bit more is we can just route these guys into one of our reverbs. We can steal these, put those on, and we can do a little bit of delays. Let's listen to this stuff as well and kind of dial them in. I don't think we've done anything with our eighth note delays yet. Analog delay is fine. I like analog delay. Let's do eighth notes. Now, here's where we can do some cool stuff. We can kind of change the inertia and the speed and the LFO. I do want this to be a sine wave, but this is going to cause some variance in the delay itself so that it's not just like this static eighth note. Blah. You can throw like an LFO on here and modulate it a little so that it's not perfectly in time. Let me see if I can turn this off, and we'll do... Only want to believe, new frontier. There, here how it sounds like the tape is warping a lot. Only want to believe, new frontier goes unseen. Life calling, upon deaf ears, keep falling. Only want to believe, new frontier goes unseen. Life calling, upon deaf ears, keep falling. Am I the only one with something to believe? It's like a new frontier, the truth that goes unseen. Can't you hear my calling? It falls upon deaf ears, the sound will keep falling. And I'm sorry, but I can't stay here. There's our delay from earlier that we did with automation where we just sent here. The only other thing that we can do real quick, I'm going to do it the best that I can, is what do we have here? It is in read mode because we've done that delay send, but we're going to do some volume automation. And volume automation is very subjective because it's based on the listener, or actually it's based on the mixer themselves, trying to convey the message that the song is trying to do and make sure that what needs to be the forefront is in the forefront and is out of the way when it needs to be out of the way. And so that's even more of the same balancing act that we were doing in the past few episodes. In the past few episodes, we had everything static, and now what we're going to do is kind of bring some life back to it by using some automation. Oops, that lead vocal add. Why aren't you console? Lead vocal volume. There's an easier way to do that, but that's just the way that I did it. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to put it into touch mode. Touch mode will start writing automation when you actually touch the fader. I have a video out talking about the different types of automation modes out there. But the thing about touch is it's only going to be writing automation when I'm touching it. But I can't stay here. So I was kind of in and out, clicking and pushing up and kind of doing things like that. Now, I'm using a mouse. Personally, I would prefer to do this on something like a fader port, which is available from Presonus, or any of the USB mixers that are out there. Obviously, there's the Presonus fader port 1, 8, and 16, where you can have 1 fader, 8 faders, or 16 faders. Those are obviously available. They're also launching the I/O station, the Presonus I/O station, which is half an audio interface and half a fader port. And I can't wait to get my hands on one of those things. I think it's really going to help out my personal workflow. You could also do things like the Avid Artist Mix. You can integrate those as well. Kyle, yeah, the replays are always available on YouTube. I almost thought that I wasn't going to be able to stream because right when I started, there was this big thunderstorm that came in. Actually, let's do this real quick. Wake up. Let's go over here. I had a big thunderstorm that came rolling in just as I started to stream. But the replays are always available on my YouTube channel, Tim Talks Audio on YouTube. We've done a little bit of automation. We've done a bunch of effects. Now, is there more that we can do? Yes, there are. We can do some stuff with the guitars, especially like doing like delays on the guitars. Not necessarily reverbs, but you could. Maybe for, I think there's a solo. There's a bridge. Hang on, let's switch back over. So, a little quarter note delay on there. That it was okay. Let's try and go to eighth notes. It causes a little flange, not a little chorusing action. We do have a send to the flanger on here as well. Let's try a little half note. So that's some of the modulation that we have going on. The half note wasn't bad. I wasn't against the half note, and I just got to blend it in. We're still using the same flanger that the artist put on this, and they printed it down over here. We can locate that real quick.
Can't stay here.
I want that more forward. They did that for a reason. I'm just going to steal this real quick.
Can't stay here.
So that's some stuff that you can do as well. We'll have to be a little bit more experimental. Maybe we can have some fun. There's not a lot going on in this song. Obviously, like I said, we can do a lot more. There's our lead vocal automation that we did before. I kind of overdid most of this, so I'm just going to go ahead and select all of it and delete it. So some other things you could do is kind of more of a static. I'm just going to switch this back to read real quick. More of a static automation. So I know leading into this chorus, we can kind of bump him up a little. I'm holding shift just to do some fine automations. And some other cool stuff that you could do. So that just pushes that lead vocal a little bit more forward. That's an effect that's causing that clip. I'm not worried about that. Something else you could do is to make things sound really big. Let's go back to our verse. So this is a printed left-right of our verse guitars. And what we could do is, I believe we could do it with Mix Tool. You can invert, or actually, what's the way to do it? What I'm trying to do is actually kind of bring this in. Yes, exactly. What I'm trying to do is actually bring in the size of the panning that's going on in this. Just trying to think of the best way to do it. Let's click this. Let's go to routing. Here's all of that. And let's see. It's a normal split, but I don't want to split it anymore. So I can get rid of this actually. Oh, binaural. That's the one. Binaural pan. That's the guy I want. So with this, I can actually reduce the width on this verse to go, let's say, let's go a little extreme. Let's just go 60%. We're going to hone it in and not make it at Kyle. Thank you. It was binaural pan. We can make the verse guitars much smaller. And then I just want to compare. Let's bypass that real quick and go over here. So if I'm going to have my verse guitars at, let's say, 60% of full left, right, then I can have these guitars here be, let's say, left 75 and right 75. And then the chorus guitars can be full. Let's pull binaural guitar over here as well and actually make it just a little bit wider on our chorus guitars. Let's go 110%. Because we're crazy. All right, let's listen to our verse, and it'll be a little bit, you'll have some stereo image. Then it'll hit into the pre-chorus, which should be a little bit wider. And then in theory, when we get to the chorus, it should be very wide on those guitars. I engaged it. Let's do it in solo real quick. Here's without it. Let's hit the beginning of this. So you can hear that it kind of brings them more into the center image and it takes it out of the sides a little bit. Now, in theory, what's going to happen is the verse guitars are going to be a little bit in, the pre-chorus guitars are going to be a little bit more out, and the chorus guitars are going to be way out there. So let's go halfway through, unsolo, and let's listen. So it definitely got the idea across. If you didn't hear that, let's just listen to the guitars. I'm going to listen to the same thing. Pay attention. Verse guitars, going to be inside. Pre-chorus, a little bit wider than that. Chorus guitar is real wide. So that's another way to do some automation and to do just some little tricks to help your song get bigger in the choruses. Again, this song has everything split out onto its own tracks. So the verse guitars, I can just throw binaural pan in, make them a little bit smaller, and that's not a big deal. But if everything was just on a set of stuff, or on a set of its own rhythm tracks that go all the way through, you can throw binaural pan on there and then just automate the plugin itself. I right-clicked on here because I can connect this to my controller and have like a knob to do it. or like a rotary knob to do it. And then, or I can just automate the width to be like, okay, well, here's my verses. I want them to be 60% or 50% or whatever it is. Maybe that's something we could do to make it a little bit more obvious. Let's just go 35%. Real small. Or you can do the opposite. We can have the pre-chorus guitars right 30, left 30. The verse guitars was the plugin that I already had open. So let's have these guys at 75. This way it's like relatively wide, then small for the pre-chorus, and then huge for the chorus. So that's just some stuff that you can do to help add some life to your songs and do some automating and moving around of things. That's where we're going to have to like wrap things up for this week. We've gone for quite a while and we've touched into some effects, but effects are very personal. But when it comes to the mixer, like I was saying before, I wasn't really feeling the reverbs that I had on the vocals, but again, that's just me and how I've been mixing. I haven't really liked the reverb vocal sound as of recently, and I've been doing more delays. So I have a little bit more going on. I've had them be dynamic. This way it's still not like gross and, stagnant of just like this clean vocal. It still has like all of the movements that you want. So, you do have to play with the effects themselves and then blend them in, and putting an EQ before or after the effects, something like reverb or delays, really helps clean up a mix, because you don't want too much. It could muddy up a mix and just be too busy with stuff going on if you just have the full frequency spectrum going into all these effects and they're going all the time. So combining things of like dynamic delays and dynamic reverbs plus EQs, in and out of these effects, as well as compression and all of that other stuff. And then you can also do automation so that when he's not singing, maybe the reverb comes back up and adds that space, or the delay comes back up and adds that space that you want it to do. So I want to thank everybody for coming out and hanging with me for a little while we messed around with this song. We're going to wrap things up with this song this Thursday. We're going to do just some like basics that you can do for mastering and printing this song. And it's going to be a point of getting it to where it's going to be competitive with everything. Is it going to be perfect? No. Because I am not a mastering engineer. I can do it because I know what the processes are, but I always prefer to outsource mine. But we'll go over some of the things that you can do to actually put this to be like competitive with everything else that's out there. I want to thank everybody for coming out and being active in the chats and talking to me the whole time through. I hope you learned some stuff. Like I said, we'll be back on Thursday at 2:30 in the afternoon, like we always have been doing, 2:30 Eastern Standard Time. If you have any questions, ask them in a comment. Shoot them to me on any of the social medias: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, obviously on YouTube as well. All Tim Talks Audio across all of them. What else? If you found this informative, please like and share this video. It's always going to be available on YouTube as a replay. You can watch it whenever you want. And actually later today, I need to make this into a playlist. This way you can watch it from start to beginning. Brett, I'm glad you learned a lot. That's amazing to hear. Thank you for hanging out. And I'm glad that the audio issue that you had earlier got situated. So once again, thank you all for hanging out with me. I will see anybody who's available on Thursday at 2:30, where we will finish this song up and we'll kind of go from there. And then we'll come up with something new to do next week. If you have any suggestions, let me know. Reach out. Like I said, social media, Tim Talks Audio. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.